On this quick video, we'll talk a little bit about Shipa's integration with external services. More specifically, we're going to be covering a little bit about Shipa's integration with Google Cloud's PostgreSQL, so the managed version that Google Cloud offers, as we can see here. Shipa offers a service layer, which, as mentioned, it creates an integration between your Shipa instance and the external service, in this case, Google's Postgres managed database. The reason for doing that is we understand that many organizations are using managed services out there, so it's important for development teams to be able to bind those databases into their applications. But it should also be easy for DevOps as well as platform engineering teams to create that connection between Shipa and the external service, so it's easy for developers then to start consuming that service. And it's also important to mention that Postgres database on Google Cloud is not the only one that Shipa connects. So Shipa connects to different services, and you can also develop your own service connection. This is an open part on Shipa, and you can make that available to your developers. But keep moving on with the Google Cloud PostgreSQL example. Me now wearing the hat of a platform engineering team, I can just come in here and say, I want to connect to Postgres. I'll just give it a name, call it GCP demo, or I can call it GCP online, for example. The team that I want to make this available to, the host, which I can get directly from here. I'm using the standard port. The database user that Shipa can use to access to, the password, and a database name where Shipa can store some of its components and metadata in there. When I click on submit, what's going to happen now is Shipa will reach out to Google Postgres Managed Database Services. It will create the connection between the two. So once the connection is established, it's now easy for me as a DevOps engineering or a platform engineering team to make the service available for developers. So the only thing that developers need to do, or they can do, is create databases within that service and bind it to their applications. When we go inside, now I can give this GCP online service access to my developers. And when developers come in here, now I'm wearing my developer hat. If I need a database for my service, I don't need to know how to create databases on Google Cloud Postgres database. I don't need to know how to bind that to my Kubernetes and my pods and so on and so forth. The only thing I need to do is come in here and say create instance. I can put in the name GCP DB1, the team that I want it to be the owner of this service, and create. We can see that it created successfully. So our GCP DB1, if we go into Google Cloud and we see the databases, we can see GCP DB1 there already created. So that's the only thing me as a developer I need to do and I need to create. And once this is created, I can then just bind it to an application. It's important to remember that services are created and made available at a pool level. So the pool that has access to that service, and you can have multiple pools with access to that service, can bind it to applications, and the applications need to be part of that pool. So services can be consumed at a pool level and consumed by applications that are in the pools that you gave access to. One example we can have is our inst10. Let's check one, Postgres inst1. This is pointing to an external Postgres database. It's not even on Google, it's just a service that we have here, and you can point to any Postgres database inside or outside your organization. And we have a GKE1 DB1, and it's bound to my app1, for example. And I can unbind directly from here if I'm a developer. And if I go to my app1 on applications, I can see that as soon as I bind the service instance to my application, it then gives me credentials. So PG user, PG host, database, and port, and so on and so forth. So me as a developer, I can use those variables directly inside my code. What I mean by that is if we shell into the app and we do echo pg user, for example, I have the user here. So I can call these variables directly from my code, and when I bind to the app, Shipa will automatically create a user, Shipa will create a random password, and all the communication between the services, the app, and Shipa, they are all encrypted. So security is in place. So me as a developer, I don't need to learn or know anything. I just need to know I'm using PG user or PG host as variables inside of my application. So now I don't need to learn about Kubernetes, learn how to bind my services to pod and so on and so forth, but I'm rather concerned and focused on my code. I hope this was helpful to show a little bit more about Shipa's integration into Google Cloud's PostgreSQL, as well as any external services.